Chapter 16. Loosen your bone, Wilma. You don't paddle against the current, you paddle with it. And if you get good at it, you throw away the oars. Chris Christopherson, singer, songwriter, actor, Rhodes Scholar, still super hot for an old guy. Several years ago, I went on a life-changing trip to India. In case you haven't witnessed it yourself, India is heaving with life. A swarming blur of vibrant colors, honking cars, wandering cows, packed trains, endless slums, elaborate palaces, ancient temples, and sweet-smelling incense. It's literally full to the brim with humanity, chatting and chanting and sitting on top of you while you struggle for space on an overbooked train. Your only options are 1, go with the flow and get to know your neighbor, or 2, grow a big fat stress-related tumor about it. I am extremely impressed to report that the majority of the country went for option number 1. In India, some people will spoon you on a bus if you fall asleep next to them, roll down their windows to chat with you in a traffic jam, stare unblinkingly at your non-Indianness, help you if you're lost, insist you get in their family photos at historical monuments, invite you in for tea, burp, fart, and laugh in your face. It's totally annoying and sweet, and makes me think they clearly know something important that I've long forgotten, and that I suspect most of the world has forgotten too. I didn't have to darken the doorway of an ashram, or stick a red dot on my forehead, or partake in any of the other thousands of spiritual options the country is famous for offering. Who needs them? As far as I'm concerned, you can pretty much learn everything you need to know about spirituality and life by taking a 12-hour bus ride through India during wedding season. When I bought my ticket on the Super Deluxe Express bus to Delhi from Agra, home of the Taj Mahal, I was told I was paying a wise 400 rupees extra for the luxury of a 5-hour nonstop ride, as opposed to the 10 hours and countless stops of the local bus. I was so extremely exhausted from the 3 sleepless days I'd spent whooping it up at a camel festival in the desert that the thought of hunkering down on the Super Deluxe and sleeping all the way to Delhi sounded good to me. But what I got instead was a seat next to Mr. Friendly, a middle-aged man who spoke 3 words of English, and who insisted on chatting me up even though I was doing what I thought was a very convincing job of fake sleeping and a very real job of having no freaking idea what he was saying. The bus left an hour late due to massive confusion and overbooking, and took almost 2 hours to get out of town thanks to the fact that this was November, peak wedding season. Weddings in India traditionally involve a ceremony that lasts for days, stretches for miles, welcomes anyone caught in the crossfire, and includes a parade through the streets complete with horses, marching band, explosives, a car with a loudspeaker blaring Indian music and important wedding announcements, and a bunch of guys carrying what looked like table lamps on their heads. My bus ended up getting trapped in wedding festivities pretty much every 10 minutes, which meant that everyone on the bus, every time we stopped, skipped off to join the party. When we finally did get out of town, we kept pulling over to let random people on and off, in the middle of nowhere, have some tea, a smoke, a chat, maybe light a fire in the brush in a ditch, or strap giant burlap sacks full of something large and bulbous to the roof. At some point, this guy got on who was standing by the side of the road in the darkness. We scooped him up without coming to a full stop, and he took his place at the front of the bus, standing right next to my seat, and immediately began hollering at everyone in Hindi. My busmates responded by alternately chanting, cheering, and sitting in silence, while I responded by seeing if I couldn't find another seat farther away from his mouth. I got up and joined the group of people sitting on rickety benches around the bus driver, who was in this small room behind a wall of glass. The people huddling around him made room for me, and suddenly I felt like I was watching an action movie on a screen the size of a giant bus windshield. We were careening through the narrow dirt streets of tiny villages, Bollywood music crackling over the radio, while people, goats, and monkeys leapt out of the way, slowing down only for the almighty, holy cow. Then, all of a sudden, in some tiny nowhere village, the driver pulls over yet again. More chai, perhaps? Maybe he's going to visit a friend. Has to pee? Wants to take a walk for an hour while we all sit here? The driver waves for me to follow and gets off, as does everyone on the bus. It turns out that Mr. Yell in my ear was some sort of holy man who was just warming up the crowd for a tour of the temples in this small, gorgeous village called Vrindavan. It is, I learned, the place where Krishna met his wife Radha and where they built hundreds of temples in their honor. So for the next 2 hours, I found myself wandering through the countless temples, gaily tossing flowers onto shrines, holding hands and skipping in a circle around a statue of Krishna, solemnly chanting, praying, and clapping, and all I could think was how homicidal a bus of New Yorkers on the express bus from New York to D.C. would be in a similar situation. Meanwhile, not one person on the bus was expecting this, and not one person complained, even though when we finally got back on the bus, it was well past the time we were supposed to be arriving in Delhi, and we were still a good 5 hours away. Instead, they all thanked and tipped the holy man and spent the rest of the ride merrily chatting away with one another. After that, we stopped at a roadside restaurant for dinner, then another pee break, then I was waking up the family I was staying with in Delhi at 3 a.m. They, of course, acted like it was the middle of the afternoon and insisted I share a cup of tea. Here's what India taught me about tapping into the mother lode. Talk to strangers. We're all family on this planet. Expect and enjoy the unexpected. Find the humor. Join the party. Live in the moment. Time spent enjoying yourself is never time wasted. Share your space. Loosen your bone, Wilma. Love yourself, and life becomes a party.